Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the Inside Edge podcast, episode 13. Today is November 20th, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Coach Clark. How are we doing, Coach?
Doing awesome today, Gary. How are you?
Doing fantastic. We're already two diapers into Babyville today, so started early and often. But we got a lot of
Excellent.
NHL news to talk about.
Yep.
We had
Yep.
a major happening last night with Mikko Rantanen against the Islanders. He received a 5-minute major and was a game misconduct for his hit late with the empty net with about 30 seconds left.
Yep.
Back of the jersey, a little late by some people's standards, especially Patrick Waugh, who had some choice words for him on his way back to the bench in the locker room. Thoughts on that, Coach?
I actually didn't think it was intentional vicious hit at all. It's just kind of it was bad timing. I know that, you're supposed to lay off a guy when he's like 2 feet from a wall or 3 feet from the boards, but players are taught to finish hits, go through people, finish. And if you let up, the guy's going to create a play. He's going to create something, or he has the potential to do that. So this is a little different. This was, he got some body on him, but I don't think he drove him in. I don't think, it's not like he finished his gloves finished on the glass or anything like that. I just thought it was an unfortunate fall, and he got hit from behind about the same time he was crashing. So I didn't think it was intentional. I thought it was just a bad accident. Patrick, I haven't seen that fire in him in a long time. I don't know, Gary, what do you think? I don't know if coaches are told or if it's a new philosophy for them just to kind of be stoic. They've always been stoic, but every once in a while, guys get lit up and fired up on the bench, and Patrick Waugh is one of the leaders in that. I haven't seen hardly any of that from anyone. And what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's definitely more of a old school mentality. I think the yelling to get a reaction. I mean, personally in Boston, we haven't had a yelling guy at all. I mean, Monty is one of the more chill players coaches of all time that we had before, and then I haven't seen Marco Sturm get anywhere near that angry. But
Yeah.
I love the Torts Quenville style, like angry on the bench. Like I'll let you hear about it if I have a problem with the way the game is being officiated. I just love that from Waugh because it's one of those things that seems like the type of guy that, like, if he's that fired up and you're not, then that's a problem for you, and that's
Yeah. I think that coaches do that, and players need to hear that and feel that, because they when they do, they understand someone has their back, especially if they feel one of their players have been wronged, so to speak, and a coach is getting lit up. I mean, really, really emotional about it. I think players feed off of that a little bit. However, if you got a guy that's complaining about officiating and bad calls, offsides, this and that, over and over and over, constantly, that has a really short shelf life on the bench. Players start rolling their eyes. If you got a guy that just does it constantly, that's why they don't do it, because it'll just wear everyone out. And guys will start rolling their eyes on the bench. But
and
I understand.
refs are people too. They'll hate you. They'll remember that in the future.
Oh, yeah.
They'll officiate another game you have. So that's another
Yep.
reason I think guys don't do it as much. But
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention you didn't think that the hit was that dirty. I think everything in that type of context in the last 2 minutes of a game in slow motion can look bad if you want it to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's one of those things where if you've ever put on a pair of skates, if you're going 20 plus miles an hour into the end boards and you're trying to stop momentum while also getting to that puck, that
Yeah.
any little shove from behind is going to make
Yeah.
you feel a little wobbly legged, and it's very easy to go down. Not saying that makes the hit okay, but I think that Mikko Rantanen is a guy in a 3-2 game who's down with his net empty there, and he's trying to make a play.
Yeah. Yeah. And you also got to consider, who the so-called villain is. Like, Mikko Rantanen is not a dirty player. He doesn't have a track.
And he's a big boy. I mean,
Yeah.
he's Moose.
Yeah.
He's a big
Yeah.
fella, so it doesn't take a huge shove from him to make something look bad. So.
Yeah, and again, video can really make it look, especially like you mentioned when they go slow mo.
Yeah.
It can make it look really ugly. and maybe uglier than it was. But how do you tell a player to back off or to hold up? You know, especially in a situation like that, in a tight game, late in the game,
They were
everyone's
down.
going hard. Yeah. Yeah. And so you gotta go hard. You're not gonna be pulling up. I know, and I've run benches for many years, and if I see a guy pulling up and letting a guy make a play, uh, he'll be on the bench. As simple as that. But Mikko Rantanen has he's got a reputation and a very good one. He's a fair player, and like you said, a big guy. But he didn't do this on purpose. He didn't have any intent to hurt the guy. And
Doesn't have a reputation as that kind of player.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know. There shouldn't be any suspensions. I don't know what the
I,
what
there
the
will be none, as when I read. The
yeah.
league's not going to pass one down, which is smart.
Yeah, 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 it is smart. So, but I don't mind. I don't mind coaches getting a little fired up, like Patrick Roy did. I don't mind that one bit. Although in this case, the Rantanen hit. No, it was unfortunate, but it wasn't intentional, and I don't believe anything more should come of it.
Agreed. Agreed. We can put that to rest. Charlie McAvoy,
Oh
unfortunately, of my Boston
boy,
Bruins, was smoked in the face
yeah,
by a slap shot the other night, and it looked at first like, speaking of slow mo, like his teeth or his jaw was
yeah,
coming through the side of his face.
yeah,
He's out indefinitely still. It's Thursday now, 4 days later, and they just had operation or surgery on his face, but they
yeah.
still have no timeline for him.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I saw it in slow motion, and I almost would rather not see it in slow motion after I saw
Mm-mm.
it. And it just looked like it got a combination of neck, chin, jaw, beak, and it was a bomb too.
Yeah,
Uh,
Noah
there was
Dobson.
there was a player standing behind him, and that player looked towards the glass. He didn't expect it to hit McAvoy, and he looked for the puck and looked towards the glass because he expected it coming off the glass. But it was such a bomb. But I don't see I don't see him coming back from that for a while. And Boston, they're the top, right? I mean, they've had a great start to the season, and that would be a bit of a loss, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially with the way their team is
Yeah,
shaped up, like he's such a cornerstone of that
yeah,
group right now.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
just as a leader, but as a defenseman.
Yeah, and I see, I'm a subscriber to The Athletic, and I love, cherry picking articles to read, and some of the comments right away were, they got to make it mandatory for guys to wear masks, cages, and there's some pretty dumb people out there. I mean, it's hockey, it's not tennis.
Well, good luck with that too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, guys can wear visors if they want. Visors in this situation wasn't going to do much for him, but I just think some of the people take it too far, but that'll never happen. But I think the only way in the NHL that you can wear a bubble or a cage is if you are hurt or recovering, but still able to play. That's the only time it's allowed. Because if you
Yeah,
if
I
you
remember Chara with the full bubble after he broke his
yeah,
jaw for a
yeah,
couple
exactly.
weeks.
But guys like Dino Chara are gonna have full respect from everyone. But imagine if everyone wore cages, it would be
Yeah.
absolutely bloodbath out there. The high sticking that would go on, there would be no consequences. So you got to remember back in the day where they had a little more honor with their stick in terms of where they carry their sticks. No helmets, right? Not at all. And I kind of grew up in that era where, once in a while you see an NHL guy, wear a helmet. And that was kind of a big deal. He got called a few names and lightweight type names that we can't repeat on air. But and then, more and more guys start wearing it. And now it's 100%. And is there a rule that you have to wear one? I think there is, isn't there? Or not?
For wear what? A
NHL,
helmet?
or just a helmet.
But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I
The
didn't know if it was still optional or not, but I remember the day where that trickled in. I mean, the days of watching Brad Park or Jean Rattel or Phil Esposito, no helmet. They all had, respect more than anything else for where they carry their stick. And, they kept everything down. They kept everything honest, and it was still a tough game. But, the more equipment you wear, sometimes guys will take advantage of that, and hands come up, sticks come up. But it is what it is.
I think
But
it's
yeah,
just a
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it's just a good reminder, like, forget, I think his name was Adam Johnson, who passed away
Yeah.
from being stepped on. It's a good reminder that, hey, like, you might get some shit for wearing a bubble, man, but is it worth, being out for 4 to 6 months or whatever McAvoy ends up being out, or do you want to just be called the bubble boy for a little bit?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
trade off. You can wear a neck guard and save your life potentially.
That was my next comment was neck guards. I'm kind of torn between that because it's kind of an odd feeling. I don't think it's going to change. Obviously, it's not going to change the way you skate or play. I'm okay with guys being told, yeah, you got to wear neck guards because it may feel uncomfortable at first, but it's not gonna hurt your game. It's simply not. You will get used to it as a player, as a skater. You will get used to it. Some of the best players in the world have worn them. Uh, goaltending is boy, oh boy, that's tough because you get in the crease and guys get knocked down and it doesn't take much to get a skate blade in the throat. It really doesn't. It's amazing it doesn't happen more. So we've seen it happen before, and it's tough. But the neck guard thing I think it should be just to play it safe and it doesn't affect anything. It only protects you. I think it should be mandatory.
Yeah, I remember, I learned that lesson very early, thankfully for me, when I was just starting to play goalie. I couldn't fit the neck guard under my chest piece protector, so I just didn't wear it for the first couple months, and I remember I was doing goalie training with somebody who was tipping shots to me, and I got tipped one right in the side of my neck, and it felt like the first time I ever got the wind knocked out of me, and I was
Well,
like, "Okay, maybe I'll wear the neck guard now," and I
yeah,
wore it every day after that.
they have the dangler, the plastic piece
I
that
tried
hangs.
that.
Yeah, and a lot of guys don't like that. It's just really annoying more than anything else. I had a goalie that I work with closely in the summertime, John Nanos, who's playing in Montana right now in junior hockey, and we were training, and he got hit right in the throat, which is really unusual because your mask comes down the chin of your mask. When you have it down, it protects pretty much everything. So to get hit in the throat, I'm surprised that it doesn't happen more often. But he went down, and I could tell right away he had issues, and like he threw his gloves off and he skated to the bench, and then from the bench, 1 second on the bench, and then he went into the room
Oh,
and he went to the hospital. He was okay, but okay, so you get hit in the throat. What do you do now when you jump back in the net? You've got to have some nerve,
yeah.
like in there, and pretend it never happened. But the odds of getting, guys getting hit in the throat with a direct shot, could be tipped where your mask is not, you may be looking up a little bit, opening up that spot, and something gets tipped. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. But I'm surprised that it doesn't happen a little bit more. But yeah, getting back into the game after you've been injured, it's got to be tough. And I've dealt with, especially goalies who have had to battle that, and it's all mental, but you've got to believe. You just got to just let it go and keep moving on. That's easier said than done.
Yeah, it's part of the psychological part of this game we've talked about a lot. I
Yeah.
mean, shit, that's got to be hard to overcome something like that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
In other news, the Predators got 4-0'd by the Penguins in Stockholm. Gary Bettman wanted to preemptively announce that the NHL is not expanding to Europe anytime soon. But I did want to ask you, Coach, because it's a topic in a lot of our major sports now. I feel like hockey is maybe the most poised to have a European team in terms of its makeup in the NHL with its players. I think 30 something percent of NHL rosters are now European.
Yep. Yep. They will never expand over there and have a team based in
Never.
Stockholm. Never, ever. They will never have a team based in Helsinki or Stockholm or anywhere in Germany, Russia.
Do you think that just for hockey or for football and all the major
No,
sports
I
in one
think
way?
it's so. I think the way everyone's doing it now is right on the money. You know, you have an occasional game planned over there and make it a really special event, and I think that's the way to do it. But I remember there was a group. You remember the old IHL?
No.
International Hockey League. So you had two AAA levels. You had one, the American League, mainly on the East Coast or Central U.S. to the east, and then you had the International Hockey League. And the American League was made up of guys that are pretty young, you know, in their early 20s, just coming onto it. Guys out of junior, or guys out of college, mostly out of junior. And the IHL was kind of an older league, and the money was a big. Say back in the '90s, for example, average salary was maybe 50 grand in the American League and 100 grand in the International League. So it was made up of older players. Well, the IHL, not a great decision. They expanded. This is only in the continental U.S. They expanded from pretty much a West Coast or a Western U.S. league to Orlando, to cities that were the travel was just crazy. And the travel killed the league. It killed it. It got so expensive to fly around. But you're in Long Beach one night and you're
Yeah.
Orlando the next night, and back. It just sucked the life, and more importantly, sucked the money out of all the teams and all and the league in general. And the league folded. And salaries were getting out of hand, and owners, the owners at that level, especially in the international league, they weren't affiliated with National Hockey League, so there isn't the money. But it all comes down to money. It would be so expensive to do that. The travel would be, travel would be too much. I think the travel would be tough on the guys too, because I flew back and forth to Europe for 10 years and been over the Atlantic a lot. And it just takes its toll on your body. But no, there will never be expansion into Europe. But I think the way they're doing it now, I think is just right on the money. Actually, you have a handful of games over there, and the fans are excited, and it's kind of a thrill for the guys to go. Um, but I think it's a great idea what they're doing now. But um, I think the plans for the talk of expansion, never in a million years. But I have one other issue with not an issue, but an opinion on outdoor games. And what's
Shoot.
your take on outdoor games?
I like him. I'm planning on going to the Stadium Series in February between Tampa and Boston, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, Coach.
Too many of them.
Too many of
Too
them.
many
Okay.
of way too many of them. I don't
Yeah.
mind them, but when you look at the layout of the where the ice is or where the fans are, they're like 300 yards away, it seems.
Yeah. Some of these venues are not made for hockey.
No, no, and they're trying to, push you know, it's just something that I don't. Again, it's kind of like the European thing, the games over there. Once in a while, have one a year, and that's it. This year is Chicago, Boston, and next year it's Islanders and the Penguins or whatever. But have one a year to make it special. But they do too many of them. I know the players are very concerned about ice conditions because you're kind of relying, you're outdoors. You're relying on the weather. And whether it's snow or whether it's warmth, it's not consistent. It's not a consistent, atmosphere that you're in. And I'm not a fan of outdoor games in general. I think they're kind of cool, but when the NHL, I think when the idea first came out and they implemented it, I think fans were going crazy over it. It's great. And of course, the NHL got greedy and started throwing all over the place. I just don't, I think there are too many of them. And maybe they're backing off a little bit. I haven't really looked closely at the outdoor schedule, but I think one a year is right on the money and make it special. Other than that, shut her down.
I, I,
What
I
are your
like
thoughts?
I like the Stadium Series this year, literally just because I get to go see my Bruins outside in Tampa, and it'll be no one's first game. But that's not because I'm going for the hockey. So I understand your point. I think they should do one of those Stadium Series, one Winter Classic every year. Two
Yeah,
cool venues, one historical, one more for like the Stadium Series should be like a wow. Can you believe we're playing hockey in this stadium?
yeah.
And then the winter or the what did I just say? What's the other open one? The
The classic.
Winter Classic.
Winter
The Winter
Classic.
Classic should be played as a Bruins Canadians, as
Yeah,
a Blackhawks and Maple Leaf. Like it should be an
big
original
rivalry. Yeah,
franchise and an old school with the old throwbacks from both teams.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's what you're talking. That's the limit. That should be
That should be
enough
it.
for every
Yep,
year.
and that would be fine. I think that would be great. But the thing that again the players are always concerned about the ice, and if you get soft ice, you get ruts, you blow a knee, blow an ankle, whatever, and that's not that's just a danger that you typically don't see in the National Hockey League these days, and but I think I think the safety is a little bit of a concern, but I think the people behind it all do a good job of dealing with what they got to deal with. But the one thing that kind of bothers me as well is like I mentioned before, the seating. It's just the fans are too far away,
Have you
and
been to any of the outdoor games, Coach?
I have not yet. I've seen them on TV, and when they do a distance pan of the stadium and the ice surface, and then the couple hundred yards away, the fans are in the front row, and I'm like, this is
What
not right. But
what I will say in defense of the Winter Classic is I
yeah,
went to the one at Notre Dame. 100,000 people watching a hockey game was pretty effing cool, let me tell you.
yeah, it had to have been. Yeah. So,
Roman Coliseum with a hockey game at it. It was pretty sick.
but I agree that if you do too many of them, that thrill is going to wear off.
Yeah,
I'd like to keep it special.
it
Colleges
loses
are
the
doing them,
luster.
obviously. So, what's been your favorite outdoor game?
Probably that one. I went to one at Fenway as well in Gillette. But those they did Fenway before that, and then they just went back again. They're trying to milk that cow until it's dry. So I,
Yeah.
I
How
understand what
did
you
you
mean.
like that? Where'd you sit in that game?
Which one, Fenway or Gillette? We
Fenway.
were way up, so that was actually pretty good because you could kind of top down see like you're sitting in the top of the TD Garden ring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fenway was a little tougher just because that's a tough stadium in general because it's so old.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of bad seats for baseball.
Yeah,
That I
exactly.
mean, you're sitting in the right field seats and you're looking straight into the center field triangle.
And you think about where like that's if you're watching the whole baseball diamond. If you're watching the hockey game, it's taking place between like left field and short right field on that hockey rink
Yep.
that they built in the middle of the field. Yeah, so
Right.
it's
Right.
tough. But
So do they put bleacher seats like in the infield?
no, they do the whole like there's the Bruins original six logo in the dugout, and the Canadian or the Flyers is who they played is on the other side, and they all walk out from the dugout in gear. So
Yeah.
they have the whole field like roped off. Nobody's on the
Wow,
field.
wow. So if you have seats behind home plate,
You can barely see probably because you're at floor level with them, but the rink is still like 90 yards in front of you towards the
yeah,
out.
yeah. That's tough. That's what I mean about the seating arrangements. But you're at a special event, and some people like it. So, but for
That's
me, and I've seen a million games in my lifetime, so I want to be able to see if I'm going to
yeah,
go.
exactly.
But not everyone, has had the ability to see a lot of games. So I get it. It's a thrill, but not for me. I'm not.
I also I wanted to mention on your Europe point. I do agree. I think that the NHL, NBA, and MLB are not poised to have a team in Europe, but I think that the NFL could eventually pull it off with them only playing once a week.
Yep,
But I
yep.
think
I agree.
if hockey is going to continue to do this, they need to stop playing on Friday and Sunday morning and trying to compete with the NFL. This needs to be at its own time frame, standalone. There's the European hockey leagues were off this week. They were off. Yeah, they're off this weekend. They were on last weekend while the NHL was in Europe. Why not plan this for when the European leagues are not playing and have everyone in Europe watching your sport while you're over there? That's
Yeah,
just
that's
small
you're right
critique.
on the money. You're right on the money with that. And I think most of major, with the exception of football, baseball, basketball, hockey, they play too many games anyway.
Too much
And
travel.
yeah, and you're right. You're right. Football does it the right way in terms of when you go over there, when you go from the continental U.S. to Europe, it kicks you in the ass. Your body clock is messed up, and it's 7-hour time difference in general, depending on where you're coming from. And coming back to the U.S. is a piece of cake, and that's way easier on your body coming back. But going over, say you land at 9 in the morning and you probably haven't slept for, a lot of people don't sleep, and you have to stay up. Say you land at 9 or 7 in the morning, you have to stay up the whole day and go to bed at a normal time, and otherwise your body clock will never adjust to where you are.
And by the way, that 2 in the afternoon feels like 5 AM for you. So, you're
Exactly.
battling.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I remember doing that. I remember landing. I was living in Denmark, and landed at like 7 a.m. I think got into Aalborg at maybe 9, and we were invited. The GM of the team had a dinner at his house, and it was like 6 in the evening, and I stayed up, the whole time. I didn't take a nap, and you can't nap. But I literally was nodding off at the table, and it's early in the evening, 6 o'clock. It was really, really hard, and I'm glad I didn't. You know how little babies in a high chair will fall asleep right in their food, and that's kind of
Yep.
like I was worried I was going to do that. Uh, but yeah, so the travel thing, it's hard on the guys. It's hard on the players. And I don't care you travel first class or not, travel that far is a little bit difficult. I mean, going coast to coast in the US, that's no piece of cake either. A lot easier than going to Europe and back. So see, I like the fact that they go over there once in a while, but no, having a team based out of there, it'll never work.
Yep. Agreed. And then last thing I had on the list, Coach, I was just perusing the internet today, and I found an interesting article from Hockey News written by Adam Proto about Stuart Skinner and whether he doesn't get enough credit or if he gets the right amount of shit for the last 2 years being probably the most talked about goalie in all of the NHL between the two cup runs and just coming up short. And I mean, playing in a Canadian market is already
Talked
insane,
about,
but Edmonton,
yeah, he's talked about for all the wrong reasons.
yep.
Which is tough. But I watched him play last week, and you're gonna choke when I tell you this, but he's actually tightened up his game a little bit, and he's not flying all
I
over.
am a fan of Stuart Skinner. I'll just make that known right now. I think he's a good goalie. I think it's a similar to the Bruins situation where they don't necessarily play the most defensive style system,
Yep.
especially in the playoffs when they do a lot of run and gun with Leon and Connor on the same line. I think he's
Yeah.
been at
Yeah.
the tail end of suffering for a lot of that.
Yep. I would totally agree. They play, like you said, run and gun style, and he's not that type of goalie. But I think he's gotten better. I don't know if his numbers show that. They may not, but I watched him the other night and I watched closely, and he looks like he has himself under way more control than he ever has. But bottom line, you got to keep the puck out of the net. You got to make saves, and if you're not doing that, it's a results oriented industry like everything else is. And if you don't do that, they did they. What does he have left on his contract? Do you have any idea?
Great question. I'll look it
I think
up real quick. But
they're tied into him. Or this, I think recently they gave him a deal, but I wasn't sure on the length. I'm not sure if it's
Stuart
up after
Skinner
this year
is
or
currently in the middle of a 3-year contract for 7-8
yeah,
that was signed in 2022. It expires at the end of
yeah.
this
Three
year.
years is yeah. So yeah. So they're not tied into it, but you know, who do you try to get? I think they pin their hopes on him. And what's his salary? 7?
He makes 673 a year.
That's way too much for him. Like
Agreed. But my
way
my my counter to that would be who else would you go out and get? Because a lot of these I've read a lot of these stories the last couple of years. Who's who have you gotten to go out and replace Stuart Skinner? I mean, he's won them as many games as he has personally lost them in their cup runs, in my opinion.
yeah. I think I believe I don't know anyone in that organization, but they probably they believe in him and they're just going to stick with him, and because the alternative is a big guess, and I think they have to believe that he'll come around. He's not. What's his age? What's Stuart Skinner's age?
I believe he's 29. He was
He is in his late 20s, right? So
yeah.
he's got some good years left in him. So they'll probably stick with him unless they can get a big name. Washington's not going to let go of Logan Thompson anytime soon. But speaking of that, who is your leading Vezina candidate at the quarter mark?
So far in the NHL, I mean, it's hard to not go with. I mean, the guy you just mentioned, Logan Thompson, as like
Yep,
the breakout fun story amongst goaltenders this year. Helly
yep,
is obviously always in the conversation. Bob's, I mean, he's got to round back into form eventually, right?
yep, yep. He usually is a slow starter, but you know, Logan
I
Thompson
would.
is clearly, he's his one-loss record isn't all that great. He's 8-5, which is kind of average, but he's got a 920 save percentage and a flat 200 goals against. Everyone's stats in the league have gone down in a bad way. Everyone. Like you look at the typical elite guys in the league, Igor Shesterkin, all right? He's 10th in the league in goals against. He's at a 911, which he's not happy with. Connor Hellebuyck's at a 913. I think a week and a half ago he was at 927, and he's at 251. You have Andrei Vasilevsky below him. He's at a 906, which is unbelievable. Jake Ottinger, he's at an 898, right?
Otter, Otter, Bob, and or not Shesterkin. Who's the other guy? Stuart Skinner have below 900 save percentage right now,
Yep. Yep,
which
which
is
is crazy.
crazy.
You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys that are way out of line in terms of where they usually are. Shesterkin, Hellebuyck, Vasilevsky, Ottinger, Thatcher Demko. He's 21st in the league in goals against, and he's only at a 903. Right? Bobrovsky is right behind him. He's at an 883 and a 28 goals against. It's incredible. Joey Decord, who everyone keeps hoping will evolve, he's below 900. He's at 898. It's really another guy, big surprise, Islanders, Ilya Sorokin. And he's considered one of the elite guys in the league. He's at an 898 as well, but almost 3 goals a game. So I think this is what the league in general has really wanted for a long time. They've wanted more offense, and they don't give a rat's ass about goalie stats, and which is fine. They want to entertain, and it's getting done because when you have elite goalies, Jeremy Swayman, 34th in the league at goals against.
Thanks,
He's
Coach.
2.99. Yeah, sorry, but he's at a 902, right?
I was
And
trying not to read
he's
his
got
name. I was hoping it was so low you wouldn't notice.
no, but his record is identical to Logan Thompson. They're both 8 wins, 5 losses, right? So they're just not making saves. And Dustin Wolf, Calgary has basically given him the reins, and he's gotten run over so many times. He's at an 892, and he's over 308. Linus Ullmark, who won a Vezina, a couple of years ago, 874. Crazy. It's unbelievable where some of these guys, Bennington, won the Four Nations last year, 872. It's really,
They're
it's
struggling.
amazing that you see guys. However, you're only a quarter of the way through the season,
Yeah, there's
and all
definitely
you got to do.
some writing of the ships still to go with some of these guys. Like some of these guys you're reading, it's like Igor and Bob. Like they'll rectify that stuff by the end of the year. That's how they always end up in the conversation. Same with Stuart Skinner.
Well, shutouts too. You want to talk about, Logan Thompson is the elite goalie in the league right now, 0 shutouts, right? Scott Wedgwood, who's really, really good. He's played quite a few games. He's already played in 15 games, 0 shutouts. I think Hellebuck, 0 shutouts. Spencer Knight has 1, but the league leader has 2. That's it. Wallstedt from Minnesota, and and his stats are good, but for these guys whose stats are really struggling right now, like I watch Hellebuck all the time. His game's fine. His game's absolutely fine. He looks good. He looks like he's got a lot of energy. I watched the other night, first two goals against the defenseman off the D, off the skate. And I'm watching Dustin Wolf, guy shoots from the point off of one skate to another skate, off with his skate, goes back in the slot, and the guy one times it in. It's life in a pinball machine. And that's where the mental part of this really comes into play. Guys that hold it together when they get, they're giving up way more goals than they're used to, they've got to hold it together because, when you take a look, let's look at these stats halfway through the season, three-quarters of the way through the season. I would expect Logan Thompson to remain high on the list. And I would expect guys like Vasilevsky and Hellebuck to gain traction. All they need is a shutout here and there, and they're right back in the hunt. But it's going to be interesting. But right now, Logan Thompson is having a really good year. His record, like I said, is not all that great, but his stats are good, which means he's keeping his team in the games, and they're not scoring a ton of goals for him. But he's having a great year, the best out of anyone so far.
It's also an especially fun year to watch these goalie competitions with the Olympics on the horizon because a lot of guys want to be that goalie in the Olympic Games.
Yeah, so everyone has had their list of guys for the U.S. team, for example. You've got Hellebuck, Ottinger, and Swayman, right? Those are the three everyone says. So, if you look at the American goalies on the top 10 or top 15, it's kind of interesting because none of these guys are having unbelievable years yet. So you got to pick on their track record. And Hellebuck's track record should be the number one guy going in. But it would be interesting to see if they just automatically just kind of hand it to him, or does it depend on how he's playing at the time? When the Olympics roll around, and
That seemed
what is it,
like
early
kind of
February?
what Canada went with in Bennington last year for the Four
Yeah,
Nations. He wasn't the hottest
yeah,
goalie at
and
the
he
time,
played
but
great. Yeah,
he was the guy with the biggest FU attitude in games like that and had proven it in the
yeah,
past. So it'll
yeah,
be
and he was,
interesting.
and Helly was good in the Four Nations as well. But Bennington did a great job, and he won it.
Yeah,
Yeah, he won it for them. But,
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, the Olympics coming up and, no one's making decisions right now on, who the number 1, number 2, and number 3 is. I mean, but Swayman, he's got a pretty small sample of years in the league. Hellebuck's got a huge, he's been in the league. This is year number 11. I think Ottinger is behind him. He's got probably half.
He's right in
But
between them, I believe.
yeah, yeah, and but they're not having great years yet. Um, but we're a quarter of the way through, so we'll
It's an
see.
open contest right now.
Yeah, wide open, wide open. But it'll be interesting. But those who don't become unraveled will be fine because they're in the NHL. They're elite goalies, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time. Again, it depends on what kind of team is in front of you and what you're facing for shots against, and backdoor tap ins, things like that. So it's a bit of a challenge, but it'll be interesting as time goes on, and for Team Canada, maybe more so because they don't have as many elite goalies, I don't think, as the U.S. does. But the Olympics will be really interesting to see who pans out. I believe at the end it'll be Hellebuck Ottinger, who will split games in the Olympics or be named one or two. Those are the two guys that I would trust. Just in watching the guys that I watch, those are the two best in the league, I think.
I think it'll start out as Helly's net to lose as of right now. So
Yep.
we'll
Yep.
see.
I would agree. He's a reigning MVP of the league. He's a reigning Vezina,
Yep.
back to back, and
Reigning Jennings winner for 2 years
yeah,
now.
two back to back as well. So they kind of give it to him, but he'll be ready to go. I know him so well, and he'll this will motivate him, and I think they'll be fine. But the Olympic team, if everyone's playing well and you got a good group in front, they've got elite goaltending, and at
Yeah.
least in at least Hellbuck and Ottinger. But there's Swayman right behind, who's a pretty good goalie himself.
Yeah,
So
not the worst when he's at his best.
yeah, they've got they've got some treasures in there.
You got anything else, Coach? You got trivia for me? I got one for you.
No, I don't have any trivia for you, but go ahead.
Okay.
I want to fail once again. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, no. Here we go. So there are only 7 NHL franchises that have played 50 plus Stanley Cup final games. Of those 7, only 3 have a winning record. Do you know who they are?
I would say the finals.
In the finals.
Yeah, I would say the Islanders have to be right up there.
The Islanders have not played in 50 Stanley Cup Finals games because they swept those 4.
Okay,
So they didn't. The
Edmonton.
Islanders as a franchise have only played 24 Stanley Cup Final games. Isn't that
Okay.
insane?
Yeah, they're all in a very short time span as well.
And they only have 7 losses. So they could have only lost one of those Stanley Cups with every loss they
No.
took.
I would say Edmonton has to be in there.
Edmonton is one of the 3. Edmonton has played 51 games. They are 28-22.
Wow. Let's say how about your Bruins?
Bruins have played 98. They're just out of the under 500 though. They are 37-58. They've lost a ton of
Okay.
finals games.
Even though they haven't been there in like 100 years, Toronto, back in
That
the
is
day,
number 2.
yeah, because they've been around so long, one of the original 6.
56-49, just above 500.
And I would say maybe Detroit. No?
Detroit is so close. They are 61-66 in 127 Stanley Cup final games.
Wow. Okay, who are the rest then?
The number 1, you got 2 out of 3, Coach, so good job. But the number 1 answer, a little tongue-in-cheek, kind of obvious. The Montreal Canadiens have played 166 Stanley Cup final games. They are 104-61.
That should have been the first team out of my mouth.
Yeah, it's kind of cheesy because, they're all the old ones, but
Yeah,
they still count.
They still count. They're part of the stats. But no,
But
Montreal should have been the first team out of my mouth.
166. That's 47 more Stanley Cup final games than any other franchise.
Dating back, what do you think first one was? So Montreal Maroons?
Maroons, yeah.
Yeah. So dating back to when do you think? When do you think the first year was it
Are we
20th
counting
century?
all time? I think the first official Stanley Cup was 1893 or something. Right?
Yeah. Okay, so it did dip into the 19th century. Yeah, it's a long time. Wow.
Let me see which one they account officially.
Good trivia. I like it. So I'm going to start this. I'm going to end these each podcast with a little tidbit that I throw at players, that I throw at goalies. So if I'm working with them, and this one's a really good one to remember. When things get down, and you're in a dark place, you got to ask yourself, am I a Viking? No, am I a prince or am I a Viking? Right. So I throw that at people, not regularly, but when guys are struggling, or if I have a group of people, I'll ask you. You got to ask yourself, am I a prince or am I a Viking? And how are you going to do that? So that goes along with having that little FU in your game. And I've got more stuff I'll throw at you, but I'll lead off with that one.
That's a great thought starter for someone that's in a, what do I do about this situation? Well, which one are you? Are you the prince or are you the guy that picks it up and rubs the dirt off his face?
Yeah, you lost a tough game, or you gave up a bad goal, or you're in a bad stretch. You gotta suck it up. You really do. You gotta suck it up and go after it, and have that FU in your game, and just go get it. And you keep having that attitude until you get it, and you learn how to maintain that mindset over time. Those are the ones that go the furthest. So I'll end with that.
So I just wanted to follow up. By the way, Coach, it says the first championship that they count for the Canadians is 1915. But when you Google on Wikipedia, the first available Stanley Cup champion is the Montreal Hockey Club in 1893. So I had the year right. I just didn't. It wasn't the Montreal Maroons.
Wow.
And I think, if I'm correct, they just won by default. There was no champion, no challenger. So that just goes to show how long ago that was.
I would love it. It's too bad there's no video. That'd be kind of cool to
Yeah.
watch, would it not? It
Yeah.
would be really, you watch the NBA for the 1950s or 60s, and can you imagine those guys getting on the court against the Boston Celtics,
Oh my
for example?
god. They
So
would
that's
think
how
they're the
much
Harlem
the game
Globetrotters.
is. Yeah, yeah. You ever go see them as a kid?
I did, yeah. They were in Philly a lot as when I was younger. So I mean, I used to grow up thinking like that's how guys played basketball, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is why none of them look like me. Got it. I just,
What
most of the guys
I
in that
saw them as
'50s
a.
film look like me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's amazing the athleticism, the coaching, and the training, and all of it that goes into it. But they take the game so, we take the game so much more seriously than they did back then,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's really, I think, what it comes
Well,
down
those
to.
guys used to
So
have to get a
they
job in the off season, so it's a little different now.
exactly. Yep, yep, yep. So anyway, that's all
All
I
righty,
got.
coach. Yep, same here.
Good,
As always, good
good seeing
chatting. If
you.
you
We'll see you next week.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys are having a good time, please like, subscribe, check for prep past episodes. We just got our this is 13 or 12 for us, so we've got a big catalog of stuff for you guys to go through if you're enjoying the show. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Awesome. All right.